myself again. But it's the only...
Good afternoon and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Sunday afternoon we always have someone different on, and this week it's Ian Mearns' turn. Good afternoon, Ian.
Well, it's nice to know I'm different, Steve. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Well, we had Mick Lowe's last week, and it was great to have Mick on. You know, he hasn't done a great deal like throughout lockdown, and yeah, I mean, I've bumped into people in the street this week when I've been out on my walk, and people saying that it was great to see Mick on, and he's one of the guys who I know from Dunstan Football Club said he had a tear in his eye when Mick came out what he said at the end of the show, and it's that kind of effect. When we're doing these shows, Ian, you don't realise the effect it has on people sitting at home. But it's
Absolutely.
nice to know that when you bring somebody on like Mick last week, just out the blue, that people enjoy it. So it's great to get that kind of feedback, and nice to be able to do this. So thanks for coming on again, Ian. And Paul Oxley said, "Afternoon, guys. What a difference a win makes." And we were talking off air before we came on, and it does, doesn't it? Because we've all got a bit more of a spring in our step today after that performance yesterday. Notably, I would say probably the performance of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit, Stevie, and I think as I admitted to you a couple of weeks ago, I was actually thinking about, will I watch it or won't I? But I actually did, and I was really pleased I did, because actually from the outset, it looked like a different team. Same players, but they look like a different team. And one thing that I love to see in football, I remember Newcastle had an away game at Old Trafford with Shearer and Bellamy doing it, closing down at the edge of the opposition's penalty area, and we did that very, very effectively, and actually nearly created some chances just by doing that yesterday. So not sitting deep was I think really, really positive yesterday.
We've put a poll out on my Twitter page, at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and simple question: was the NUFC win down to the arrival of the new coach, Graham Jones? So far, we've had 1,484 votes. Yes, 84%. No, 16%. So obviously, that's only been up about half an hour, but already a resounding yes for Graham Jones. And is that the case, Ian? Do you think Graham has had such an effect in that week that he's been there?
Well, the thing is, we don't know. But the thing is, the likelihood is, the probability is yes. Because what else has changed? What else has changed in the club to make those players play so differently, so much more energetically, so much more positively than in the games in the last couple of weeks? I mean, people were talking about the second half against Leeds, and it was like following on from that. But Graham Jones had arrived by then, and I think it was quite evident as well that Graham Jones was actively coaching from the sidelines during the game yesterday. So from that perspective, I think it's a good assumption to make and a safe assumption to make. We can't be positive, but I think it's I think it's a good assumption to make. And if that's the impact, well, for goodness sake, I hope it continues.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of the comments on Twitter, and I will go to that before I come to the people who are watching the show. Paul Davis says, that's the only variable, nothing else has changed, so it had to be his influence without getting carried away. It wasn't like watching a prime Liverpool, but it was nice to see effort and a bit of link-up play and a bit of press, a lot more movement, much better. Steve Wilkinson, who does the Retro Show, says, too much of a coincidence not to be given full match of aggressive pressing and forward play. Did everyone notice the second most advanced player sprinting up the pitch when Wilson scored his second? Shelby. Jeff Garnett says his arrival and the fact we were playing a more pressing game may be down to him or down to now Blaine Bruce's way. I can't believe I just typed that. Either way, it certainly worked a lot better. Fozzy94 says it's a hell of a coincidence that the best performance of the season comes days after Jones arrives, and I don't believe in coincidence. And James Ray says, well, something's changed midweek, and the only thing happened was him to come in, but we will see. So lots of comment. If you want to vote, get yourself on at Steve Ray. It's my last tweet there. Yeah, I mean, what did change? I mean, a lot of those comments there say pressing, and pushing forward. But I mean, what else did you see yesterday that impressed Ian?
Well, the fact that we closed down Everton's creative players, the Richarlison and Rodriguez, were effectively closed down, and people were on them very quickly to prevent them from being the playmakers, which I thought was very, very positive indeed. So it cut off the service to the front players at Everton, and I think also on top of that, man, watching Newcastle this season, the amount of times, particularly when we've been sitting too deep, that when we do try to break out of defence, that we actually give possession away far too cheaply, and that just wasn't happening yesterday. And in fact, I think the fact that we won 2-0, we kept a clean sheet, but actually Wilson could have had 5 goals yesterday. And I'm not going to criticise Wilson for a moment. I thought he was absolutely excellent, but he had a header in the first instance that was tipped over. He hit the bar, he hit the post, and then had a one that slid just wide. So it's I thought it was an outstanding performance and a real pleasure to watch. I might have to reactivate me Ladbrokes account because I've stopped betting on Newcastle to win some time ago.
I think that's the one common denominator amongst Newcastle fans over the last 24 hours. A real pleasure to watch, and we haven't been able to say that for weeks. Barry Hogan says, just been looking at the numerous pictures of Bruce Jones in the technical area yesterday's game. They say a picture shows 1,000 words. Well, Bruce for me is now surplus to requirements. Him and his team. Yeah, I mean, I did capture the moment yesterday, and it got quite a push on social media of Graham Jones out of his technical area, telling the players what to do, and Steve Bruce's look. Well, it did say a lot. I mean, there wasn't as much of that in the second half, Ian, as there was in the first half, and you got the impression potentially Steve Bruce might have had a word at half time and said, look, Graham, I appreciate what you were doing, but if you wouldn't mind, that one was quite a good one, which Chris Hall sent us. Looks like he's got him on puppet on a string, but look, fair play to Graham Jones. He come in, he's made a big effort. He comes from the Felon, of course, somewhere where you and I know quite well, and essentially has been at Newcastle in a coaching capacity in the past, albeit at younger level. But yeah, it was good to see him, wasn't it, up and about, and it did seem to rub off, because I did see Agnew and Bruce also becoming a little bit more animated as the game went on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, as I said on the Friday show a couple of weeks ago, I was speculating then that maybe the club had brought in Graham Jones as a potential caretaker manager should Bruce be made surplus to requirements. But now, in a funny sort of way, if he has this effect on the team, he might be the man that saves Bruce's job.
Yeah.
It could be, because having played so badly with him as a manager and then not getting a shot of him, and then now he's still technically the manager, and even if Jones is having this impact, Bruce is the manager. And of course, when he's out there fronting the organisation at the press conferences, let's say if he invites the written press to the Monday press conference this week, we'll see about that. But because I gather from people like Chris Woff and that written press media weren't allowed at the last press conference, which is very, very strange indeed. But Jones might be the catalyst that actually saves Bruce's job. Who knows? And that would be ironic, wouldn't it?
What do you make of that? Because we've seen it at the political level. I mean, the government wouldn't speak to Good Morning Britain for a vast period of time, and whether it's political, whether it's football, whatever, does that benefit the person avoiding the press, or does it take a little bit of pressure off them, and they can concentrate more on the job that they're doing? How do you find that action?
Well, I just think it's ultimately self-defeating, but it might give him a bit of a respite. And of course now, he's had that week when he didn't have the written press at his press conference, but we've now got a win under our belt. So maybe the atmosphere at the press conferences will be different. Who knows? But the thing is, it's one game. And while there's so much that was very positive there, that's now got to continue for the games coming up, because we do need points on the board and in the bank if we're to avoid being dragged into a relegation struggle. So it's one game, Very, very positive indeed. Lovely to watch, but it's 3 points. And let's just think about all the other points which have gone a begging in that really dreadful run, you know.
Yeah, okay. Peter Robson says, Stephen Ian, can I ask your opinion on Bruce taking all the plaudits after the game when to us fans it's obvious he had nothing to do with it and the impact of Jones was there for all to see? Yeah, it's got to be difficult for him, I suppose. I mean, I did see his interviews. I saw him interviewed on BT. I saw him interviewed on Match of the Day. There was no mention of Graham Jones. You wouldn't expect it, I don't think.
No, the thing is, right, he might actually, in his own head, think that the change is down to him. I don't know. I really don't know. But I really sometimes wonder if there's much in there, in terms of the grey matter, like, because it's quite obvious that he hasn't been able to instill any sort of tactical nous into the team over the last couple of months. And I just think we've just been playing far too negatively in order to get anything out of a lot of those games. And we've let points go begging, frankly, from my perspective. I mean, think of some of the games that we've played since Christmas, where if we played like that, like we did yesterday, what we could have got out of some of those games. I mean, we could have been now top half.
Yeah, no, I mean, never a season goes by when we have those kind of runs, especially when you're in Newcastle's annual position, which tends to be mid-table or bottom half, fighting relegation. There's always those games that might just have taken you, and of course that's how you qualify for Europe if you do manage to get those extra points in the bag. Paul Jones says, just seen on a news website that the Saudi Arabian, it's definitely going to happen Thursday, so you better get your cans ready. Sky will be covering it on Thursday. Paul, I'm not sure who your source is or whether you've been on the source, I'm not sure, but listen, if it's going to happen Thursday, great, but I think that would be slightly early. I'm led to believe that it could happen, but maybe it's as late as March, but we'll wait and see. Nobody likes to put a time or a prediction on it these days. So many things need to happen before a takeover goes through, and I think that this week would be slightly premature, but who knows. Mad Mark says every Newcastle fan knows that it was Graham Jones' structured side, so hats off to him for coming in and implementing an idea of playing progressive football that Bruce has never offered in his 18 months here.
So what's the score on the poll now? Because he says every Newcastle fan, but 16% didn't think it was.
The poll is still running. We're nearly up to 1,700 votes now. It's gone up slightly, 84.4%, 15.6% say no. So yes, still an outstanding yes for Graham Jones. That he had some kind of effect on yesterday's game.
But what I can't understand is what are the other 15.6%? What do they think it was down to yesterday?
Yeah, it's interesting to know what people think. If anyone's got a different opinion, let us know. Drop a message into the comments and let us know. David Reed says assistants don't do TV rounds unless managers refuse. Bruce is knackered, he should still leave. And Jones made a big difference. Fair play, David. Paul Oxley, I did say that earlier, what a difference a win makes, and it certainly does. Gets everybody in a slightly better mood, more of a bounce in our step. Dave King says Bruce was going to bring Joe Linton a new haircut on after 80 minutes, but our new manager stopped this. Yeah, I mean, did you see that? He's the latest footballer, shall we say? Maybe celebrity, who fell foul of the COVID rules. He went to get his haircut. Basically, went to get a new hairstyle, and then decided to put it onto social media. There we go. That's Joe Linton sitting in his barber's, getting his hair done. But he put it on Instagram, which is of course rather embarrassing for the football club. They then had to put a press statement out to say that you'd be disciplined internally. So he'd probably lose a couple of weeks' wages, Ian.
Well, I mean, really, it would seem to me that the thing that they should have done was they should have isolated him. Because he's actually compromised COVID security, actually doing what he's doing. So therefore, should he not have been isolated away from the rest of the squad for a reasonable amount of time, or has that already transpired? I don't know.
I don't know.
Seems odd.
I think most of us on the Match Day Live yesterday were just delighted he hadn't dyed his hair blue. If you remember last year, he dyed his head red when we played Liverpool, just to congratulate them on winning the title. So, nothing stranger than the modern day footballer at times. There really, really isn't. Tom Dixon is pleased that he's seen you on television. He says, great seeing you on TV last week, Ian. Speaking to Boris Johnson.
Well,
did he answer
your? I am meant to do that.
Did he answer your question?
Well, in a funny sort of way, he did, because I was asking him about the government and the Department for Education's plan to reopen schools. Because if they've got this plan, what I was basically saying, would it not be a good idea to share the plan with school leaders like head teachers and governors and that, so they can actually do some preparation to implement the plan as opposed to keeping the plan secret, because I don't think the plan exists.
Yeah. Fair enough. John Lennox is a Rangers fan. Welcome. Yes, we have got Gaza in common. Julie Baker says, someone on Twitter has put 2 of your tweets regarding Jones' pre and post appointment on, Steve, and you've done 180 on him. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you get a win and someone actually seems to have made a difference to the club. But I've got to be honest, I'll stand by what I said. His CV wasn't very good at all. Nobody was singing in the streets that Graham Jones was coming in. However, when you're doing a show, you have to give your opinion, and that was my opinion. So far, so good. One win doesn't make a summer, of course. Hopefully he can pick up another 4 or 6 points out the next 2 games and he can go on. But hey, if he proves me wrong, happy days. That's all we want. We want Newcastle to do well. And that's, as I say, you put your head above the parapet, it's there to be shot out. And it's nice to know that some people have got nothing better to do than think of me on a Sunday afternoon and stick and find me tweets and put them together. Great stuff. Great stuff. Michael Hurst says, hi Steve and Ian, how are you both? Very good. Do you think next season you would give Wilson the number 9 shirt? Yeah, good question, Michael. Ian, he had the option of taking it, but he didn't want to take it off Joe Linton. He prefers the number 13.
Well, I mean, I think it's up to the player. I mean, the offer's made to him. They might offer it to him again. But if he's got a favourite number, it's not broke, so why fix it? I don't think having a number 9 shirt would have made Wilson play any better yesterday. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, I agree. Julie says, great result yesterday, but let's hang fire and see if it can equal consistency. Yeah, just a point I've made. Paul Gibson, afternoon, gents. It was a fantastic performance yesterday. Let's hope we don't do a typical Newcastle and get a poor result against Palace. It needs to be backed up. I would agree with that, Ian.
Yeah. Well, it's like Newcastle, watching Newcastle over the years. Over the years, we've seen Newcastle, against the odds, pull off great results against the more successful clubs, and then they'll throw it away by losing against one of the bottom sides, and it seems to negate the positivity. What's the point of pulling out all the stops and beating a Liverpool or a Man United if you then go and lose against the Sheffield United, or a Burnley, or and you've got to build on that. You've got to build on the good results and keep it going. I mean, the one thing that Bruce was actually complaining that Newcastle didn't have before Christmas was consistency, and then he delivered consistency all the way through January. It was that's what our record was. 6 losses on the belt. So consistency, as long as it's positive consistency, is good. But at the same time, one result, swallow, as you say, doesn't make a summer, Stevie. We've got to build on it, and it's got to be built on and consolidated.
Yep, 100%. Mike Gent, good afternoon. I hope you're doing well, mate. I know you've had a little bout of COVID, so I hope you're on the mend. Afternoon, lads. Hope you're both well. Cracking result yesterday. Other results going our way too. Bruce out, yes, of course. Mark says he must have some impact. It was good to see him on the touchline encouraging players in 20 months when we've tried to press and play triangular passes. Yeah, a lot of people impressed with just Graham Jones and the way that he took the things on the sideline yesterday, which is no surprise. Kevin McDougall, just look at Jones after the game, arm around the players, little things like that make a difference. It did, didn't it? There was plenty of that after the match as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, though, I think the thing that struck me is, it's the same players. You know, it's the same players. So those players collectively have had performances like that in them, but they haven't been doing it because it seems to me that they've been told not to play like that previously. Now, Steve Bruce has been saying, "Oh, we've been working on changing the tactics for 2 or 3 weeks." I mean, you know, it was quite obvious that we needed to change those tactics a lot more than 2 or 3 weeks ago, just because the negativity and the likelihood that we wouldn't get a positive result by playing so deep and just giving possession away on a regular basis. I mean, you know, everybody's been praising Darlow because of his save ratio, and it's like Dubravka last season. Dubravka was like, I think, the most successful keeper in terms of numbers of saves. But that really does beg the question about what are the outfield players doing, which are allowing so many attempts on target, which brings our keeper into action. That's the problem, you know.
Paul Wilson just says Gateshead's Guardiola. This is what I love about Newcastle's fan base. We'll go completely one way. If it's great, we'll go completely one way, and if it's bad, we'll go completely one way. But that's the beauty of supporting Newcastle. There's no in between. John Askew, perhaps there's hope after all. Not sure yesterday's performance reflected well on Bruce, though. It probably highlighted the tactical lack of nous that's been what's been occurring in recent weeks. On Twitter, we do have Stephen Burkett has said, I voted no in your poll, and he said, did he play a part in it? Yes, but don't think you can say the win was purely down to him. So that's his view. We're hedging towards 85% on the yes vote, 1,900 votes now on that. So I think a lot of people are in agreement. I think they do feel it was down to Jones. Mark says, I put a tweet out last night saying many won't praise him, but thought Manquillo was class today, solid at right back. Everyone played well, but thought he was second to Wilson for man of the match. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I didn't think anybody had a bad game. I mean, I think even for him, Jeff Hendrick had a pretty good game. Very solid. I thought Hayden was excellent, by the way. I thought, sitting in front of the back four, and he actually broke an awful lot up and protected the back four. I think Manquillo had a great game. I thought Shaw had a good game. Lascelles, till he went off, was very, very solid. So, and then going forward, as well as defending, I thought Lewis was very, very positive. The overlap that he did with St. Maximum for the goal was very, very positive and very effective. So nobody let the team down yesterday. So, I think it's all subjective. We can all highlight different players, but from my perspective, nobody let the team down, and I thought it was a very, very solid performance all round. I thought the back four played really, really well.
Burnley are losing 1-0 at half-time at the moment. Thanks for that, John Askew. Paul Gibson says, got a relation in Felon in the Stonygate estate. By God, that's a funny old pitch. It's like going back to the 70s, similar to Shields Road and Biker. Yeah, I played on that pitch many a time myself, Paul. Putting the nets up and everything, mate. So, good stuff. Gary Davison says, afternoon, lads. Fantastic result yesterday. Without doubt, Jones made the impact that has been missing under Bruce. Must keep this going against Palace next. Yeah, I agree. It's the Palace game is very, very important now. It always was, but we'll get 4 points out the next 2 games. I think that will ease the pressure on everybody. Yeah, Barry goes, maybe Bruce's letters from fans will tell him what an amazing improvement he has made. What did you make of that? I mean, did you hear that? He came out and said that he could bring in lots of fan mail that he's had, where people telling him he's done a good job.
He's getting his kids to do writing practice. Is that what it is?
So yeah, I think, or some of his friends who are pundits, maybe, I don't know. But it was strange. It was a strange thing to say. Behind the Noise podcast.
I thought. In watching the warm up yesterday, I thought that Martin Keown was very, very, very good in terms of his analysis about the way in which Newcastle have been sitting too deep. Yeah. And giving possession away and all the rest of it. So, a couple of my mates texted us about it, and then I couldn't agree with them more, and so, it seems that some of the punditry have kind of cottoned on, but not all of them, not all of them.
Behind the Noise podcast says people will point to Bruce pulling out results just in the past, which just buy him time. However, we've never pulled out results playing like that. If we maintain this approach, we could finish 10th. Yep, I agree, mate. Matt Ritchie, Jay Welsh says, looks like Matt Ritchie leaving for Bournemouth. Great servant to the club. Fee of around 4 million and 5 million for Yedlin. So Ashley will be clawing money in and looking at loans to come in. Yeah, Matt Ritchie, I'm disappointed in. I've got to be honest, especially under the current in the current climate situation that we're in. Look, I understand players, need to be sold at the right times, etc. I don't think this is the right time to get rid of Matt Ritchie. But then somebody said yesterday on the Match Day Live, well, he's not getting a game. So, no. Far rather cash in if Bruce isn't going to play him, which I agreed with. But I'm just disappointed to see him leave. He's been a great servant to Newcastle.
Well, I think that's right, and of course, you see, if we get hit with an injury crisis at any time, he's the sort of player that you would want to bring in because he's never going to let you down. He just gives 100%, Matt Ritchie, all the time. Look, he's not the world's greatest player from my perspective, but he works his socks off, and I think from that perspective, he leads by example because there are some players who by the way, to a man who worked very, very hard yesterday, but it hasn't always been the case. And you want somebody like a Ritchie to go and inject some enthusiasm and some desire onto the pitch,
Yeah, Darren, plenty of these messages coming in. Says, all credit to Graham Jones. He's come in from Bournemouth, give the club a lift and did more in the technical area in 90 minutes than Bruce has done in 18 months. Mike Gent says, I would keep the same formation but bring Matty Longstaff in for Hendricks. I've got to be honest, I thought Hendricks played well as well yesterday. Nobody had a bad game. No. And I still feel Hendricks' position's very awkward because it's one of those, Ian, where you do a lot of work off the ball which people don't really see.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, when you're going forward, just actually making a run, it opens up space for whoever's got control of the ball and creates space for other players, but also closing down. When the other team are in possession, and I thought there was an awful lot of that yesterday. But by all of the players, actually, I thought it was very good, and that's where I thought actually Hayden came into his own yesterday. I thought he had a really good game. Yeah,
he did, definitely, mate. JJ says, take note, this is what happens when you use the Gateshead experts. Mearns for PM. Phil just thinks the other 16% must be Mackems. Barry Hogan says, Joe Linton should be on performance-related pay. He would be broke. Neil Macmillan says, that was the best performance I've seen for a long time and it had nought to do with Bruce. And LRT says, I think Jones made a difference, but there were signs of the Everton performance in the second half versus Leeds. So I think Bruce does deserve some credit. I still hate the guy. So hate's a strong word, LRT, but I know the sentiment, mate. I understand where you're coming from. It's been a frustrating couple of months and nobody likes to be beaten every week and not get the results. But look, we've got to win yesterday and we've just got to enjoy these weekends.
I mean, after the Leeds game, Bruce said that he didn't like making excuses. He didn't. I don't like making excuses, and I'm afraid to say that I was a bit seething when I read that, and I put a tweet out saying, well, in that case, don't, do the decent thing and go. Realise that you're actually in a job which is actually above you from the capacity that you've displayed in the last few months. And by the way, when I put my tweet out saying, do the decent thing and go, and realise that the job's above you. It got retweeted loads and loads of times, so people, it seemed to me that it struck a chord with folks,
Yeah, Gary McBurney says Jones did start his reign at half-time against Leeds. He was in the stands at Leeds then, and then he ran down to the changing room at half-time. So that's his position on that. Jack McBrubin says footballers are in such a privileged position he needs to be punished properly, talking about Joe Linton's haircut. Paul Oxley, why do certain journalists still defend Bruce, saying Jones had nothing to do with it? Yeah, I did see that last night. And I've seen, I saw a couple of things on social media last night. And then this morning I see people complaining about being attacked online. Can never condone social media bullying. It's awful. We've done a documentary about it. We had a campaign about it. But some people do set themselves up for a fall. I'm not sure whether it's because maybe they have a couple of shandies on a night time or what. I just really don't know. But people do lay themselves open, and unfortunately, unfortunately, when you have an opinion on Newcastle United, if you're going to put it out on social media, you are going to get people who are going to say, well, I've got the other opinion. And it's the way that people put it. It's unfortunate, Ian, isn't it? And I guess if you don't want to have the comeback, don't have an opinion and put it out in the public.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of used to dealing with that. I mean, if I tweet about stuff which is happening in the not football world and the rest of the world, I get obviously some very negative stuff coming back. I think I was called Mr. Hindsight a couple of weeks ago by somebody, and then it was laced with lots of other stuff as well. So if you're going to advertise, what you're thinking by using social media, just expect it. But it doesn't make it right, Stevie. It doesn't make it right.
Yeah, okay, look, it's a political question for you. Obviously, we're happy to take anything, and it's regarding the takeover. He says, can I ask why Newcastle City Council are not applying any pressure towards a takeover? Are they scared of the NIMBYs, which of course is not in my backyards, coming out of the woodwork? The benefits for the city are massive. I mean, you're Gateshead MP, but have you any insight into that kind of thing? Why they wouldn't get involved? Is it too much of a, I don't know, political... I don't know, I'm not going to say... Well, yeah, it is, isn't it? I suppose in a lot of ways, But in my respect, I think everybody can see it would be massively beneficial for the area. But why wouldn't a politician get involved?
Well, maybe they've just come to the conclusion that it's something that they have no jurisdiction over. I mean, will the Premier League take any more notice of Newcastle City Council as they've taken off like Gilmore or me or other MPs from the area? And the answer is probably not. But it seems that the hold-up has all been to do with the Premier League and the way in which they're interpreting their own rules. Let's hope that a takeover can happen, because it does seem as though there are going to be economic benefits as well as footballing benefits from this potentially. And look, I'm a critic of the Saudi Arabian regime on human rights and all the rest of it, but our government at the moment has seen fit to renew sales licenses for armaments to the Saudi Arabian government. So the government of the day believe that they're okay. I'm not completely sure about that, but at the moment, we as a country deal with the Saudi Arabians. So why should it be stopped from having a football club owned or majority owned by a Saudi Arabian public investment fund? It doesn't seem to be logical from that perspective.
No, definitely not, mate. Definitely not. Josh has said, Steve, pop onto the Newcastle Twitter page, grab Miggy's heat map from yesterday. What an absolute shift he put in. There you go. Thanks for the heads up, Josh. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's it looks like it just looks like one of those bodies that's been full of ready bricks. Remember that advert, Ian?
Oh, absolutely. We used to think that those kids had gone to school next to the Sellafield, didn't we?
To be fair as well, Jamal Lewis played his part yesterday. Probably the first time we've seen him in full flight, and probably justified the reason why we spent all that money on him. But yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that, Josh. Worth having a look.
I was on the coverage yesterday by BT. They actually showed the mileage put in by the different players, and in the top 5, 4 of them were Newcastle players. So 4 out of the 5 top mileage put in across the game were Newcastle players, which I thought was very, very impressive. Yeah.
Wow, that's some going. It just shows you the vastly different performance that we had yesterday. Absolutely fantastic. Mike Gent, what's your thoughts on Lascelles? Not good enough at the minute. I'd play Clark and make Hayden Wilson captain. Yeah, I mean, Lascelles went off injured yesterday. Didn't look good. Kieran Clark came on. He's always a steady pair of hands when he comes on. What's your take on Lascelles? He's clearly been carrying an injury.
Yeah, and I think that if he is injured and it's going to be for a few games, that might be the decision made for the management now. I'm I think he's a bit of a Marmite player, and Lascelles, and some people like him, some people don't. But I think the trouble is with him is that I don't think he's consistent enough, and he is prone to the odd clanger, from that perspective.
No, he is. A lot of people saying that Matt Ritchie must stay. Totally agree with Ian, says John Askew. Paul Gibson says, totally agree, lads. I'm gutted that Ritchie is almost gone. James Brown asks, would you take Billy Gilmore on loan? Obviously, Chelsea looking to get him out on loan.
I must admit, I'm not really familiar with him, Steve, to be honest. I'd love to watch all the Premier League games, but I'm usually at work.
Yeah. Matt Ritchie says Matt Ritchie sold. Yeah, Dummett, the only backup on the left-hand side, aka Mr. Sicknote. Very risky move for Bruce to allow this bit. Hopefully, Lewis continues to kick on and impress. James Douglas says Darlow's a bit shaky the past few games. Time for Dubravka. He didn't have a great deal to do yesterday. I mean, he didn't get off to a greatest of starts, Darlow, but a clean sheet. And, second half, I thought he was a lot better. And I don't think, I understand people are chomping at the bit to see Dubravka back in, but I don't think he'll change it.
No. Well, I mean, what we don't want is we don't want Darlow to have an absolute stinker and us to be beaten, which allows Dubravka to come back in. So at the moment, he's got the jersey. And if you keep a clean sheet, well, he's done his job when he's had to. But I have to say, by the way, yesterday I think he had a lot less to do than I've seen him have to do in many recent games, which was good. It's good from that perspective.
Yep. Dean Henry says, where's the poll? It's on my Twitter, mate, at Steve Wraith. Just get on there. We've got 2,150 votes now. 84.2% say the win yesterday was down to Graham Jones. So hasn't really changed a great deal in that first 35 minutes of the show. Aaron Taylor says, I think the comments after the game from Wilson shows how frustrated the players have been just going out to defend from the first minute. I would agree. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really talked a great deal about him, but Wilson was phenomenal yesterday, and they weren't tap-ins. There were two very good goals, weren't there?
Yeah, but two very good goals, and I think he had three other very good chances. So from that perspective, he's in the right place. He's making the space for himself, and he's got the talent to finish when he needs to. He's very unfortunate hitting the post with one attempt, and of course the tip over from the header in the first half. So I thought he had an all-round a very good performance, and great to see. Great to see.
Yeah, Michael Hurst says, what's your prediction for Newcastle in 2021? On my basis, I think after yesterday, I think Newcastle will stay up. I think it'll be a record low for points to stay up this season. We're speaking to Peter Beardsley this week, and he felt 30 points would be enough for Newcastle or any team to stay up. Usually it's a magic 40, but he just thinks that the teams at the bottom will continue to squander points. And I'm going to go for maybe 32, 33 points, but I think Newcastle will stay up. And I think the club will get taken over. That's what I think will happen. So what about you, Ian?
I'm not absolutely sure about that, because I tell you, the team that I can see kicking on out of that bottom three is Sheffield United. So if they kick on and start amassing a few points, we could be at you could have a situation where Fulham and West Brom are the two that get cut adrift, but you need three to be down there. That's the problem. So I'm not absolutely certain about it being as low as 30. Let's not forget, by the way, that I don't think we're going to be in a situation where somebody go down with 14 points like our friends down the road did once.
No, I would agree. Paul says, totally agree with the hashtag be kind, but please hashtag don't be stupid. The journalist in question said Jones had no training sessions prior to the game, despite Newcastle putting photos out showing that he had. Yeah, look, as I say, a lot of these people do these things to create an interest and to get a link and to get a bite, so you read their stuff. Listen, it's as simple as that. And, that's the way it goes, unfortunately. That's the way social media is. Amanda's husband was delighted with a win. Is this significant? playing, says John Ashgreen. Yeah, I did see his tweet. My dad did put a tweet out. Get in. Look, they've bought into the whole ethos of the football club. They've been following Newcastle since 2017 and trying to buy the club. They've got an emotional attachment to the place now, so it's obvious that they're going to tweet. I have seen, and people seem to have got tired of calling Kate Stewart a bot, and have now decided to say that my dad's account on social media is now fake. So let them get on with it. Once the club is taken over, I think we'll see some, a lot of people maybe backtracking on what they said. Put it that way. I do think. Happy birthday to Jeff Hendricks today, says Tom Dixon. Now you're ahead of the game with me. I didn't know it was his birthday today, so well done, Tom. Happy birthday. Gary McBurney says, why is Premier not a public company? It's run by privileged yuppies. That's your opinion. Paul Gibson says, yes, Miggy ran his socks off. I thought he was man of the match, and I agree with the lad about Manquillo. He's now special, but is our best fullback. Yeah, Mark Cooper just backing up what you said. Almiron run 9.5 miles yesterday. I think it was kilometres, wasn't it?
I think it was kilometres, aye.
Yeah, it was kilometres, yeah, definitely kilometres. But yeah, I saw that. Josh says, Lascelles is the only constant in defence that shifts between 4 and 5 on a regular basis, with different partners every week. It must be tough to nail down a relationship with anyone. That's a good point, I suppose.
Yeah. I think it is, but that. It's a squad game these days, and they've all got to learn to play with each other. So from that perspective, I think that's a fair point. But I'm still unconvinced by that. Put it that way.
Yeah, Guy Carter, I do remember that bloke. He says, do you remember the bloke who used to train his greyhounds next to the pitch in Felon? Once the Body Club went 4 or 5 up, we started a betting school. I do remember it was a Felon Flower Show fields that I think that's where that's where I managed Felon Football Club. Andy Gibson says Richie's been a great servant but seems to have lost his delivery into the box. Jeff Carter says Darlow's distribution has improved. James Dean asks, should we start ESM on Tuesday?
I would keep him in reserve and get him back to full fitness. I think I mentioned that when he was back for available for selection, that he would make a couple of cameo roles, and I think that's what's actually happened. I think he was brought on with 20 minutes to go yesterday, and I still think we should hold him in reserve. I mean, for goodness sake, the team that started didn't do that badly, and we're already winning 1-0, weren't we, when he came on?
Yeah, it was
forgive.
We were 1-0 up. We were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
You can always time it at 65 minutes plus whenever Bruce makes a substitution. So hopefully that's something else Graham Jones might change. Because it's become a running joke. It was 66 minutes yesterday. Tom Dixon says, question for Ian. With the Scottish League getting a temporary suspension, do you think it might happen to the Premier League?
I think it's unlikely. I think because of the television revenue and the COVID isolation bubbles that they seem to have got, with 1 or 2 notable haircut exceptions.
Okay. Colin says a non-football question, but something more pressing to him. When does Ian think the bars will be back open, the Irish club, and what is the roadmap out of lockdown?
I've got an awful feeling that we might be waiting until Easter.
Mm-hmm. My betting's May, Ian.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, Easter earliest, I think. I mean, the Prime Minister has been talking about schools reopening, hopefully from about the 8th of March, and schools will be the first thing. Now, I'm not even sure that if they're going to succeed with that, but that seems to be the plan. So. If that's the proposal, I think that hospitality will be some time after that, which is, from my perspective, gosh, I cannot wait to go over a pint in the Irish or the Crown Passada or 1 or 2 other places,
Yeah, Jeff Carter says, Bruce, our new director of football. Yeah, that was another rumour story that was circulating that potentially Bruce could move upstairs and Graham might take over the managerial role.
Oh, well, no.
Jonathan Ward says, hi Ian, with the takeover still rumbling in the background, do you know if the local authorities, Gateshead and Newcastle, are still involved with regards to potential investment in the region?
From what I've heard, is that all went very quiet when the bid was withdrawn. So let's wait and see. I would love to see a change of ownership. I'm obviously got qualms about Saudi Arabia, but I think I'm like the vast majority of Newcastle fans. We want to see Mr. Ashley's back really and wave him off and thank him for his time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Gale will be moved on in tomorrow's transfer window? Says Tom Dixon.
Possibly.
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
Paul Gibson, remember the pub on the corner called the Duke of Connaught? Yep, just down from the Pear Tree, lads. I played a season for them when I left school and I kept getting kicked all over the place. Yeah, I used to play...
At the top of Stony Gate Lane, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's the Duke of Cumberland.
Sorry, aye.
That's the Duke of Cumberland still on its last legs. It was before lockdown, but the Duke was a great place. The Duke of Connaught, it's not there anymore. The Pear Tree's not. I think the Pear Tree's in Indians now.
It is, it is.
That's on.
That used to be a cracking little pub crawl around there, around the top of Carlisle Street, like the Bees Wing and the Turf and the Mallard, and then you had the old
Lion.
Fox. The British Lion, and then of course you had is it the Mulberry?
The Mulberry, yeah.
Mulberry, aye.
The Bees Wing.
The Bees Wing, and then you had up the bank. You had the halfway on the high street. So that was a canny little night,
McNally's, or whatever it was called, the Turf. The halfway house was a cracking bar. Had a good pool table. Then you'd end up with the Blue Bell. You had the top bay horse, the bottom bay horse. You had the Black House.
Aye.
God, and most of them have gone now.
I used to get in the Greyhound years ago with John Hurd Senior, and
he was always in there. It was a cracking bar as well. Yeah, I mean my friends had that. Yeah, great place. Happy memories. Dean Henry, sorry mate, I'm not on Twitter, but here's my vote. If Jones wasn't there yesterday, we would have seen exactly the same negative, boring Bruce ball we have seen all season. Thank God for Jones, he says. Chelsea winning 2-0. Jack says, what were all those cryptic tweets about last night? Look, there's nothing cryptic in it. I'm just stating the obvious from my perspective. There was too much negativity last night on my timeline for Newcastle winning 2-0. And a lot of people seem to think it's great just to completely tweet negativity about the takeover. So I just tweeted some positivity, and I'll do it with due course because, as I say, I speak to people on both sides of the deal. And, the indication is that it'll be sorted one way or another. You know what? That's all I want. I'd love Newcastle to be taken over. I'd love it to be by the Saudis. But really, I'd just love it to be taken over. And like Ian said before, to be waving Mike Ashley goodbye. But rest assured, I believe it'll happen this year before the end of the season. And we'll know either way. And if we get taken over, happy days. If we don't get taken over, at least it's over and we know it's over. But there's going to be an end game. The end game's in sight. And for me personally, that's got to be a positive because then we can just park it if it hasn't happened and go, actually, well, there we go, and people can get it all off their chest and we can just move on. But if you're asking me, do I still think it's going to happen? Yeah, 100%. But there was a lot of people last night being very negative on social media, and I just decided, from my perspective, to put it out there that, give my opinion, put it that way. So that's what it was all about. Chelsea currently leading 2-0 against Burnley, meaning Newcastle move up to 15th on goal difference if it stays that way, which will be good. Maisie says, what did you make of the Saudi jet arriving yesterday? Yeah, plane spotting was a key last night. Lots of people watching the planes flying in and out. I'm not sure there was any significance in it, but as I say, we'll wake up one morning, Ian, and it'll be done, won't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, I think what we'll find out when the ink is dry. I hate to see all the speculation because all that I think does is it creates uncertainty and we just want it like done and dusted. I would love it if we didn't have a clue anything was happening, and then it was just announced and done and dusted, and ink was dry, and that would be great.
Yeah, John says, any ideas when the next round of talks or progress between Saudi and Qatar are scheduled? Might be more important than you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I think that is important, we need to see some of those local enmities put to bed in that particular neck of the woods, and that might help free up a lot of the attitudes in Premier League headquarters. I think also on top of that, by the way, somebody was asking on the comments earlier on about, are the big six still got their fingers in the pie? And frankly, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I think the continuing speculation about a European Super League only shows that they are a clique who are working together very much so.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about the sun behind me, Steve, by the way. I look like I've got a halo, which I certainly don't deserve.
I just thought it was a halo. You took me line there. James Dean says we've moved above Burnley in the table on goal difference now. Yeah, cheers for that. Question from James. He's saying, when does Ian think the government will let life return to normal? We did discuss this a bit earlier. David Crone answers the question how I answered it, really. I'm a drayman and we've been told May the earliest. I know a few people in the security sector and they've said exactly the same. That they're not expecting anything until potentially May. But, we go back into some kind of normality in May, i.e. we'll be back into the tier system, and that's no doubt where we'll end up.
Well, I think that'll be the case until a significant proportion of the population have had both vaccinations, because that's going to be the real protection. And of course, if significant numbers of people resist taking the vaccination, that will carry on the potential for things to drag on. There's a lot of negativity, and it's understandable because I have to say the government's management of the whole system has hardly been their crowning glory. But the vaccination does seem to offer a glimmer of hope, but people have got to get vaccinated.
Yeah, 5 minutes left. Stop talking about pub crawl, says Mike Jens. Dave Harrison says, remember working with Ian when we were at Gateshead Council? Great crack with Dave Abbott. Happy days.
Dave was head of the Central Print Unit. Lovely guy. And I think an archery expert as well, I seem to remember.
Yeah, he still talks about that quite fondly. Still into his archery. He'd be dying to get back to that, I'm sure. Michael Hurst says, do you think the fans will be back next season? Will be back next season, not this season. God, I hope so. I can't see. I'm thinking August 22.
I would think it's it's about vaccination. If the bulk of the population are vaccinated, so that herd immunity has been got in a positive way, well, we've then got a possibility.
Yeah, Neil Macmillan, what was the Irish pub called just up from Hewitt? I drove northern buses around there. Wonder if I ever picked you up. I always used to get taxis, Neil, or walk. when I lived in Hewitt, I'd just walk, obviously. But yeah, I think it might have been McNally's. I think it was McNally's. It used to be called something else, but then it was McNally's. But yeah, Nick's asking a political question. Why can't the government give true figures of deaths due to COVID instead of the inflated ones? I.e. where people who have tested positive within 6 months but fully recovered but die of something else, i.e. a heart attack, are still counted as a COVID death. I suppose a lot of concern, Ian, for people with these figures. Some people feel it's scaremongering, other people don't really care. You see 1,600 deaths. It's 1,600 deaths. It's a big amount, for a daily amount. But then some people are saying, well, before COVID, what was the situation? Was it 1,600 deaths last year when it was through cancer, or it was through this or through that? I mean, can you answer that one?
The simple way to do it is to look at the year-on-year trend, and then look at what's called additional deaths. And so, like normally in the winter months, you get additional deaths, for a whole range of different things. The unfortunate thing is we've actually got a significant number of additional deaths over the annual average. And an awful lot of that is COVID related.
Yeah, okay. Paul Wilson says we forgot the Jubilee in Felon Square.
The Jubilee, aye.
Another good one. Felon Social Club was always all right as well, to be fair.
Aye.
And there was always that one just at the end of Woodlands Terrace, which is in the middle of the house. No, the Portland. There's the Portland. You had the Portland. Yeah, at the bottom. But when you went up Woodlands Terrace and the road followed round, you went to the right. There's a pub in the middle of the housing estate.
The Cup and Coins.
Cup and Coins. That was the original name. It changed its name. It changed its name eventually.
I did. It became some sort of sports bar, didn't it?
That's right, yeah. I can't remember the name of that, but that's another one. Paul Gibson says, Irish Centre's not the same now when they made it open plan and took the pool table out of the bar.
It took us some time to get used to it, but after a few pints of Guinness, they don't notice,
Yeah, Nick just says, thank you for answering. I thank you for asking, as my uncle died of a heart attack earlier this month, but had a positive COVID test in May, fully recovered, but his death certificate says he died of COVID. Sorry to hear of your loss, Nick. Always
Indeed.
sad to hear about that. It's a horrendous time that we're all living through at the moment. We're living through a piece of history which we all wish we hadn't.
I think the other thing is though the widely discussed additional death figures from COVID are only people who've died within 28 days. Now there are secondary figures for people who've got COVID on their death certificate but who haven't died within 28 days. But I'm afraid to say even those who've died within 28 days, it's over 80,000 now. So it is serious. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, we're going to have to come to an end because I've got to pre-record tomorrow night's Ladies' Night because I'm not going to be, I'm working, unfortunately, so we won't be able to do Ladies' Night live. But Ian, as always, absolutely great to have you on, whether it's a Newcastle question, a political question, whatever, you always answer them. So thanks very much for coming on. Look forward to getting you on again, probably with the Three Amigos next because I know you enjoy a chat with the lads. Maybe get you on Friday if you're free.
I'd love to, Steve. It's been a real pleasure as always. Always a pleasure.
Especially after a win.
And indeed, my last word will look at everybody. Everybody's got their own opinions, but in the last analysis, all we want people to do is to stay safe. Just keep yourselves safe and look after yourselves and look after your loved ones. So Take care, everybody. Right.
Great words. Take care, Ian. Have a good week. Speak to you on Friday. Take care, pal.
So, bye now. Bye.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only...
And a big thanks to our sponsors, as always, for NUFC Matters. We've had Jab, who create our flyers. Big thanks to them. And also a big thank you to the world's first alcohol-free distillery, oldcoachhousedistillery.co.uk. Visit their website, enter the code OCHD to claim your introductory 10% discount and get the most out of your dry January. Try saying that. And qtechshop.co.uk as well, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend. You can also buy those t-shirts at newcastlelegends.com. Take care. Bye-bye.